what we are going to be doing in this presentation is telling you a little bit more about how we're extending the work that we did in the report, in the deliverable, what are kind of the next steps and how we're going to move from the report stage to an academic publication. It's in the makings, so it's work in progress. So please be gracious if we don't have yet all of the findings that you would like us to have, but I will be able to at least tell you what are our plans for what are we doing. And at least the presentation would allow you to sort of kind of get a kind of deeper understanding of things that were in the report and that perhaps we didn't have the time to discuss as much in that first section. So first of all, in this paper, what we're going to do is to sort of focus and zoom in a little bit more on this finding that Henrik presented before, that we contribute as something that it's relatively novel in the scholarship in relation to the dimensionality of political trust. And although we say trust everywhere, always remember we're talking exclusively about political trust, so confidence in political institutions and political actors. We're not including interpersonal or generalized social trust in this study. And the background in the scholarship is that there's kind of various ways of thinking about political trust, both in EU actors and institutions, and in national level actors and institutions. And if we had good data, we could extend that to subnational actors and institutions as well. But unfortunately, as Henrik was saying before, we really don't have good enough data to do that. We can think about political trust on the one hand as a heuristic. So citizens are really paying attention to the most salient political institutions and actors and are kind of extracting a kind of general opinion or orientation, whether that's affective or of some other form, rational, for example, in terms of how they're viewing that one or two institutions, and if they are working in a heuristic manner, then that will actually extend to their evaluations of all other political actors and institutions. So in a sense, you fix your attention in one actor and institution that it's more salient, it's more relevant, that you're kind of getting information on a daily basis, and that sort of trickles down and you're matching your expectations about the other institutions. Or you can think about political trust as an evaluation, as a kind of information-based orientations that citizens are developing on an institution or actor-by-actor basis. And in that scenario, citizens would actually be evaluating distinctly those actors and institutions on the basis of their performance, of what they're doing and how trustworthy they are, or how trustworthy they feel they are. Because we need to always remember that this is to a great extent about perceptions as well. And until now, the research, the extant research was sort of emphasizing, on the one hand, the scholarship suggesting that political trust, in the same way as generalized social trust, even if it can be malleable through kind of the life course and experiences, it's primarily also formed at a certain kind of political socialization stage of your life. So there's a certain stickiness about it. And some of the data that Henrik showed about the recovery sort of suggests that there's some element of that as well. There's kind of a baseline orientation that people revert to. And what we're showing in this paper and the report already is that there might be a lot more of an evaluative nature than we thought before, or that the scholarship that exists had recognized until now. And to do that, there are a number of things that we're going to be doing that extend the work that we've already done in the report. On the one hand, as Henrik was saying before, we had based a lot of our analysis in that report on a harmonized data set that was produced with Eurobarometer data, but we did find a few holes here and there. We don't want to speak ill of our colleagues. They did a fabulous job, but there were some gaps that we found. And what we've actually done is go back to the original Eurobarometer data and do our own post-harmonization effort that recovers a number of items that were inadvertently left out by that previous post-harmonization effort done by other scholars. But and that sort of affects primarily items that are relating to national political parties and the national justice system, which had been inadvertently left out. But also we've added more recent waves of 2022 and 2023 that were not covered in those previous efforts by our colleagues. And so we've now sort of created a database with those items. Unfortunately, because of lack of human kind of resources and time, we've only restricted them to the political trust items and not done it for all of the other correlates and variables that perhaps would be useful to have also for other types of analysis. And so we've rerun some of the analysis that we did in the report with better and we could say more robust data to make sure that our conclusions about this bidimensionality of political trust actually is confirmed, or at least is still present when you incorporate, for example, all of this missing information that we previously had in that database on political trust in national political parties and political trust in the national justice system. And precisely because national political parties in particular, we do know that political parties have a very bad reputation, it could actually make a difference. And we were wanting to be sure that this bidimensionality didn't change once we took that into account. The good news for us is that our results are robust. So with better and kind of more complete data, we still systematically find that although there's a certain correlation between the two dimensions of political trust, we don't say that they are completely independent, or what we would say in mathematical terms of orthogonal. They are correlated. There's kind of two distinct kind of latent variables of political trust that we can identify. If the underlying Eurobarometer data were richer, not just included the European Parliament and the European Commission, but also more systematically other EU institutions, we would have more indicators, but those are the ones that are kind of repeated across most of these surveys. And we can see that although there's a certain element of information that national actors and institutions bring also to the dimension of political trust on EU actors and institutions and the other way around, they're kind of sufficiently distinct and separate that it makes sense to analyze them and try to understand the evolution over time. And the other thing that we do is to check whether this two-dimensionality holds over time or whether it's something that is specific to kind of a shorter period of time. In other words, is this something new that has only been happening more recently, or is this something that is more stable? And by and large, what we find is actually that kind of the core items that provide the larger share of the information of each of those dimensions. So the trust in national parliament and trust in the national government is sort of pretty stably shaping this dimension of trust in national institutions throughout time. And the reverse is true for the European trust dimensions. We do find that at the kind of the earliest period, there's a slightly kind of uptick, if you want to call it that way, of the other governmental level institutions providing a little bit more of information in each of the reverse dimensions. So just to reiterate, the key findings are that this two kind of latent dimension of trust in Indian institutions and trust in national institutions is robust. When we check with the best possible data that we can get from the Eurobarometers, that although the two dimensions are related, actually what we find is that they're kind of sufficiently distinct that it warrants separation. The last thing that I wanted to show you, and I will not say a lot about this figure, but that just to reassure you that actually this is consistent across most European countries. So we do find that this is not just a result of pulling all of the countries that are included in the Eurobarometer together, but actually that we're able to replicate this kind of two-dimensional structure for, by and large, all of the countries that are present. Now, where will we take this paper from that kind of empirical piece of information? Well, first of all, one of the things that we still need to decide, but we're considering, is providing an assessment as to how much the financial crisis and COVID-19 shocks affected trust in EU actors and institutions, and how much it affected trust in national institutions. So, are the two dimensions differently sensitive to those external shocks, so to speak, and how the political actors reacted to them? So, those are the next steps, and sort of watch for this space. And thank you for your patience.